Hello, everyone. While folks join us, I'll get started on our introduction. So welcome. My name is Katie Darr. I chair the U.S. Biosphere Network's Communications Committee, and I coordinate the Champlain Adirondack Biosphere Network. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the U.S. Biosphere Network's Biosphere Bites series. As you know, these 30-minute talks provide a dedicated space to support regular exchange and learning across our national and international networks. For folks who can't attend live or want to share this resource later, this talk will be recorded and posted on the US Biosphere Network's YouTube page. Our usual Zoom housekeeping, please keep yourself on mute if you're not presenting or asking a question during the Q&A, and feel free to put questions as they might arise in the chat, and we can try to get to those. I'd also welcome folks to introduce themselves in the chat and what biosphere region they're tuning in from, if that's applicable to you today. We are lucky to have Emmanuel Furteau, the Moselle Sud Biosphere Reserve Coordinator, with us today, and he's also a council member of the MAB France Administration. He'll be speaking to us about the great community and youth engagement efforts underway in the Moselle Sud Biosphere Reserve. I met Emmanuel this summer at the EuroMAB conference and was very inspired by the wonderful work that his Biosphere Reserve has been participating in and undertaking to support meaningful participatory stakeholder engagement throughout the life cycle of a biosphere. So hopefully everyone will leave this talk with some great ideas about potential projects or avenues for engagement that you can undertake in your own biosphere. Emmanuel, I'll pass it over to you to present, and I'll just note that he's having some camera trouble, so we'll hear him today, but probably won't see him.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much to invite me to talk about Biosphere Reserve. My camera don't work, but at least you can hear me. I will show you in this presentation how we embodying the participatory concepts and how we do community engagement and youth engagement in the Biosphere Reserve of Moselle Sud, at least in the French Biosphere Network. So let's begin. Just to rapidly present the French Biosphere Reserve networks, it consists of 16 biosphere reserves. Next year it will be 18, I think. And we have 3 overseas sites and 2 transboundary sites, one with Italy and one with Germany. And it's a very wide types of ecosystem, from coral reefs to mountain, wetland, agriculture, forest, and very countryside landscape and people everywhere, at least some people everywhere. And I'm the coordinator of the Moselle Sud Biosphere Reserve, as you can see in pink on the northeast of the map. And I am also a member of the MAB Biosphere France Association, who manage the entire networks. I made slides on the process in itself. I will skip rapidly on this slide, but it was to talk to you about how we make sure that the participatory process from the beginning of our Biosphere Reserve, it's very important, and it's very the heart of the entire designation. With these participatory processes, we assure in the French network that there will be public meetings, stakeholders meetings, and participatory workshop all the time. And we also make a great deal about constant feedback on what we do in the Biosphere Reserve and what we will do in the future. So from the information and appropriation part to the decision part with the elected authorities, it take between 1, 2, or 3 years to construct a very robust and strong participatory process. what you are seeing here, it's the 16 biosphere reserve in France. And as you can guess, I think, it's not important what it's marked, but as you can guess, there is not, there is not a single structure type for managing biosphere reserve. There is in each one of them a different management structure, different mechanisms, and is a very ad hoc type of management. And most of the time, it is very applied to the territories and the context of the territories. So this, what I show you on this slide, is the type of governances, and it's a little barbaric, this schema, but it is it illustrates the type of governance, illustrates how we will link biosphere reserve plans to people. And there is many example of biosphere reserve management and in the governance, but what we the way we construct our governances will reflect on the way we linked to people, to stakeholders, to elected people. So I wanted to show you some example of what we do in the French networks to link with inhabitants, to link with people, and to make, in fact, the participatory process alive all the time, not just in the construction, in the beginning of the biosphere reserve, but along the year with events, with meetings, etc., etc. So to involve stakeholders, I said that we have the governances, and to involve inhabitants, people, we created a tool which is the eco-actor on appelle, networks. It consists with selection of people who are involved in natural protection, in agriculture, in tourism, in fisheries. I don't know, it depends on the territory, on each site, but people who are willing to engage themselves as people to be better in the future. It's very the heart of the eco-actors network. We gather people which are on different level of protection of environment, of sustainable development, etc. And we gather them just with the willing to do better in the future. So we organize meetings, reunions, formation. We exchange with other biosphere reserve in the French network, so we can share knowledge, share good practices. So you can see on the left the Equator network of Camargue, and yeah, it could actually today the one of the ecoactor network in one biosphere reserve, it's up to 50 people. So it's as much as ambassadors of the biosphere reserve within the inhabitants. And sometimes it's young people, not always, but sometimes it is. And we involve stakeholders, we involve inhabitants, and we developed multiple tools to involve youth. So youth here, it's sadly, because I'm not here anymore, but it's people from 18 to 35 years old. It's a UNESCO definition, but it's it's okay. We try to involve youth, so in the very life of each biosphere reserve and in the decision making. So we have multiple tools. We have in the top left corner of the slide, you can see the University of Paul Sabatier. It's in the city of France, and we have a master degree which form every year around, I said, 15, 20 people to manage a protected area, and in particular, biosphere reserve. So each year there is potentially 15, 20 young adults, youth, who are formed to manage biosphere reserve and what it implies. In the top right corner, you can see it's called a biosphere cafe, a biosphere coffee. Yeah, it's we found an association of young people. I was in this association. I was in his creation, and it consists to organize in different biosphere reserve youth events with games, with quiz, with fun, and yeah, you can see in the 7 biosphere reserve, we organize little events, and it's to provoke interest on the local youth population. So it's not very easy to implement, but he has to be implemented in ways, I say, multiple times to work, because we want to create young networks, young networks in each biosphere reserve, but you have to do it repeatedly. In the left bottom and center of the slide, you can see youth forums. It's another tool. The first youth forum was organized in, I don't remember, in 2021, I think, by Philippe Pipiart, which work at the UNESCO Bureau in Paris. And it was in Italy, and it gathered 200, I said, or between 200 and 300 youngs from different biosphere reserves, and they work together, they wrote a manifest, and yeah, they share good practices, and it was the beginning of this tool, the youth forums, who take place each year or each 2 years. And it created other on other scales youth forum. As you can see on at the bottom center of the slide, there is a youth camp organized between France and Italy in our transboundary biosphere reserve. So each year there is young people from Italy and young people from France. They hike and they gather at a certain point of the mountain, and they organize games. They talk about they are talking about and working about SDGs, etc., etc. So yeah, it's very effective, and it creates a bond between generation and between territories. And in last, at the bottom right, you can see it's for more young people, but from scholar, for scholar people, it's we call it how can I say that? We call it a nature school. In fact, we gather kids from school, and 4 or 5 times a year, we made them go outside on the countryside, make contact with nature. So we learn about little species in the soil. We learn about fauna, flora. We learn about, and we are reconnecting with nature, which is not inherited by kids living in Biosphere Reserve. I don't know the time, but I will finish with this project. We created a project which I want to present you, who is called Life Biosphere Adapt. And in fact, we just received the good news a few months before today. It's a project between 7 biosphere reserves in France, and it's a project to tackle climate change, to adapt territories. And to do that, we gather 7 different territories who have issues in common. Quantity of water, quality of water, fires, forest fires, I don't know, very common topics. And we create a project to tackle climate change, to find solution. And in this project, there is 3 pillars, and one of them is making constant contact with stakeholders, with inhabitants, with youngs, with population. And for the next 5 years, we will have in each territory a person to work on that subject and to mobilize people. We say that we want inhabitants to wear their climate culture, to have a climate culture. So we will organize conferences, scientific conferences, because we will gather some scientific data to make the adaptation plans. And we will make events, constant participatory process. And we will go in each rural corner of our biosphere reserve to talk to everyone, to elected people, to scholar, to inhabitants, etc., etc. And yeah, I think it's a very good project, and we think that it's very important to talk about this multi-scale topics of adaptation to climate change, and to talk to everyone, to people, and especially with inhabitants and young people. I didn't mention that we in my biosphere reserve, I have another tool to involve young. In fact, in our governances, I created a place, a seat to a young representative. So I wanted to ensure that whatever elected people, stakeholder are planning to do in the biosphere reserve, there will always be at least one young people who is listening and who can give advices to older people. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Emmanuel. So we have plenty of time for questions, which is wonderful because I imagine there will be some coming from this group. I know I have a few, but I'll open it up to the audience first. Any questions for Emmanuel?
Yeah, I had a quick question if I can.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, of course my settings are weird with camera, so I'll just just speak. Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel, for your presentation. It was very informative, and I remember this presentation or aspects of it from the Your MAB Youth Conference, so it's great to get another kind of refresher. I'm so happy and excited to hear about all of the youth initiatives that France has within its network, and particularly within your biosphere reserve. I currently hold that seat that has a youth representative on the on management, but I was curious about the master's program, and you have students that are going in intending to work with biosphere reserves, and I'm curious, what do they end up doing after graduating, is there a pipeline into the Biosphere Reserve, doing building capacity there? So yeah, just curious about what do you do with the youth after they've gotten their ticket into the real world?
Hello, Janelle. Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I did this master degree, and I ended in a Biosphere Reserve, which I which I implemented. But it was the first time ever that a student of this master degree come to create and work in a Biosphere Reserve. From that time, there is, I think, there is 5 person who make the master degree who work right now on a biosphere reserve. But we have very few biosphere reserve in France compared to you in the United States or other countries like Spain, I don't know. So the places have a high price, and there is no not every day places. But with the new Life Biosphere Adapt project I told you about, there will be 7 places for young people to candidate and to work with the Biosphere Reserve. And the master degree is a chance because each year they have to do a collective work. It's like 2 or 3 months, I think, of work, and they have to do it on a biosphere reserve territory. So each year we can have free work, and we can make links with the students.
Very cool. Thank you. And I have a second question actually, because my research is related to participation within the Champlain-Adirondack Biosphere Network. And I'm curious, I think this applies to all U.S. biosphere reserves, but what strategies do you use when it comes to public participation and community engagement when you're working to involve them in the concepts if they aren't familiar with biosphere reserves? Have you encountered that at all? And if so, how are those strategies different from when you were forming the biosphere?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. So I was asking about strategies related to the public participation process. But when you have publics or people that are not familiar with biosphere reserves, are those strategies different for participation or engaging people, pulling them into the system? Or do you use the same strategies for individuals that are familiar with the biosphere reserve concept and individuals that aren't familiar with the concepts?
Yeah, I think people who are familiar with the concept, um, we um, we use most of the time governance meetings, and for we say for public, for people we don't know, we use most of the time tools like conferences or events with very large topics like SDGs or topics who inform on very large. For example, this year we organize a meeting for inhabitants that we don't know, meetings in the form of scientific conference on the climate change adaptation to prepare the future life project. And there was 53 people who attended on the very small town in the night to gather on this topic, and we didn't know any one of them. It was very new people, and so it's working. And for people we know, we gather them in our governance, and we saw them on different topics with work groups.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Kelly had a question in the chat. Do you know if UNESCO MAB is organizing a MAB Youth Forum for 2025?
I know the person you have to ask to have this answer is Philippe Piat. I don't know. I think there will be, but this year it's very. Next year it will be a bit special with the China, the strategic gathering in China for the new strategy. So maybe in 2025 there will not be time to organize it, but I don't know. Maybe.
I had a question about the Eco Actors Network. So is there a formal way that folks get involved with that? Do they need to make certain commitments or pledges to be involved? And what does their participation in that network look like?
It's in fact there is when you create a eco actor network, you create with a small group. It's always at the beginning with a small group of people who manifested their interest. You create a chart, you know, which is very open, very not restrictive, but a chart to set the boundaries of what the people consider to be an eco-actor network or not. For example, if some local enterprise who made I don't know, very who create pollution in the water, and it's a they you have to set some boundaries, but it's very large. It's just that when in general when an actor integrates the eco actor networks, you can't fire him. So we have to make sure that people who are gathered, and you see them in the photos, are good people, but are willing to constantly ameliorate themselves. So yeah, it's a chart. It's like it's a very not restrictive document, but you have to have a document still.
Yeah, so some criteria it sounds like to join, but then you get to stay a part of it. So I'm imagining that criteria, that chart that you have is in French, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, we have some folks who might be able to translate. I'd be really interested to see how we might apply that over here in our biosphere region.
Yeah, it's you have to assure you that it's not rated by you as the manager of
Yeah.
manager. It's you have to be rated by people. We will create our own eco actor network next year, and I already gather information from example with agriculture farmers. So only farmers know what it means to be engaged and to ameliorize in their practices. You can't, as a protected area manager, say this is good, this is not good. So yeah, it's you have to assure yourself that you're surrounded by people who know from the bottom.
Yeah, definitely building that from the community.
Yeah.
Well, great. That brings us to 12:30. Emmanuel, thank you so much for this engaging presentation. And we have lots of ideas for the US network and for our biosphere sites within that. Looking forward to seeing how we might move that forward. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our final Biosphere Bites of 2024.
Thank you very much.
All right, goodbye everyone.